section on construction, I'm going to be talking about the best way to build a home for the money, according to Tom Harrison. Now, let me tell you, there are better ways of building homes, but not for the money that I'm aware of. I'm telling you that they build homes in Europe that are going to be here for 1,000 years. We don't do that in the US of A. If we did, the average person could not afford a home. And given the money, I could build you a home tomorrow that your utility bills would be zero. But you would spend so much money to build that home that you could buy utilities for 500 years. So it's just not cost effective. So when you complete this program, if you see the builders in your area doing it differently than I'm instructing you, it doesn't necessarily mean they're doing anything wrong. It could be they're willing to spend money where I'm not willing to spend it. And it could be they have found a better way of doing it for the money. Because you see, in the construction industry, the questions never change and the answers are constantly changing. I believe that if wood were discovered today, it would not be an acceptable material to frame a home with. Which is why some of the last homes I've built in the past, I framed them totally out of steel. I love steel framing. I think it's great. If I were going to build a high-end luxury home, I would seriously consider going with steel framing. I mean, it is the closest thing to perfect that you can get. However, and I thought that was the way we were going to go. However, when the Chinese, they started having the Olympics and buying up all the steel on the world market, steel prices went out of sight, and the steel home was not quite as cost effective as it was. And I'm not saying it may not be in the future, but I love it. Okay, now we're going to begin what is probably the most exciting portion of the program as far as you're concerned, and that is the construction of the home. Before I actually get into the construction, I want to preach to you a little bit about some things I just hope you get a hold of and listen to my advice on this. And then I'm going to also give you some information just so you're aware of some of the things that are going on as we go through this process. In the construction of the home, in most areas, most major cities especially, and even smaller cities are becoming more and more sophisticated in the construction industry as time goes on. And most of them have pretty much uniformly adopted inspecting and building under what we call the International Residential Code, or the IRC, the International Residential Code. At 24/7, you can see how to acquire a copy of the International Residential Code, or you can go just on the internet and you can locate it. And if you were going to stay in the industry, I would recommend you get a copy of this. It's like $75 to $85. If you're only going to build one home, I don't think it's really necessary unless you're just one of these people that would like to know all the little details and the things the inspectors, if you have inspections in your area, they're going to be critiquing the construction on. These books are pretty thick. They have very few pictures in them. They're not fun reading unless you're just a real anal type person, if you know what I mean. If you stay in the industry, it's probably not bad to have a copy of it so you can refer to it just to clarify anything that you feel like the inspector would catch you on. Even though I'm going to be talking about inspectors and inspections during the construction of the home, if you have inspections in your area, I want you to understand that about 90% of the construction of the home, I dare say, the inspectors, they don't even address. And people are always asking me, well, Tom, is that code? And it's like, beats me. You know, it may or may not be a good building practice, but whether or not it's a code issue, I don't know. And some of you in the country, you're going to be building in areas where they have no inspection department. Now, if you're in that category right there, I recommend you go into a neighboring city or county that has an inspection department. See if you can hire one of their inspectors, like a consultant, to come by and inspect your home just like they would in the city or county. Or there are firms, I'll just, for lack of a better word, I'll say engineering firms, or even a quality home inspector that you could hire to come out and verify things are done according to good building practice and or the International Residential Code. For those of you that are just really brand spanking new, you have no knowledge of this industry, and you're not going to hire someone to assist you, I will say that there are individuals out there, primarily very qualified building inspectors, that the realtors hire to inspect homes. And there are engineers out there that do inspection work in the commercial business. When we build a large commercial building, the banks, they don't just trust us to do the job right. As part of the agreement to receive money, they will send an engineer out there to verify we are building the structure according to plans and specifications. So you may want to hire an individual like this to come out and inspect certain subs at certain times before you pay them. But this could be especially true if you, after going through this program, you decide you want to hire a builder. Well, it may be you want to have an independent party come out and inspect things during construction before you issue any payments to the builder to make sure things are being built properly and according to plans and specs. And this is going to be a small fee compared to the overall cost of your home. But it's money well spent. And regarding the inspectors, there's a lot I have learned over the years. I hope so, after 30 plus years in construction. There's a lot I've learned about different areas of the home, plumbing, electrical, heating, and air. But there's still a lot that I don't know about plumbing, electrical, and heating and air. So we depend on our inspectors on keeping these subs basically honest. So I'll tell an inspector, listen, I want you to check this out real good, because if there's a problem, I want to know it. I know some of these inspectors, they give these guys a lot of grief, and I don't like that. However, I still depend on the inspectors on keeping these subs basically honest. So never develop the attitude you just want them to get in, get it inspected, and get out so you can move on. You want it, looked at correctly. So we depend on the inspectors, and don't develop the attitude that the inspector is a bad person. They can keep you out of a lot of trouble. They can keep the subs basically honest, even though they can be a pain from time to time. Also, as you will see when we construct a home, there are certain times you need to have an inspection completed before you can move forward. When the market is really booming, this can be a problem because you need an inspection on a given day, and if the inspection department is just covered up, they could be 1 or 2 days behind schedule. Check with your inspection department to see if you can hire outside engineers to come in and do the inspection and give a report that it passed okay. To be honest with you, I would prefer to deal with these engineering companies rather than the inspectors, because number one, they're going to be there exactly when I need them. I feel like they may know more about the process than even some of the inspectors. And that way I'm not sitting around waiting on an inspector. So the engineer will come in, inspect it, file a report. Yeah, I got to pay a fee, but it saves me having to wait a day or two for an inspector because I need to get in, get this stuff done, and get out. Therefore, if you're in that situation and your inspection department will allow you to hire outside engineers to write up a report, you may want to go that route. That's just food for thought. Over the years, I've had students come into the program back when we did the live classes, and they had probably 100 books on how to build a home. And they have read all of them twice. And they had never built a home. The first home that I constructed, that I physically built, which is still standing today, I did a pretty good job on it. I want you to understand, when I built that home, I did not know not only most of what you already know now, but when you finish this program, I built that home and probably didn't know 80% of what you now know or you're going to know. And I did a pretty good job. And so I also depend on the inspectors on keeping the subs honest. But if you're one of these individuals that feel like you got to know everything before you can build this home, let me just tell you something. When I started out, I wanted to know everything about residential home building. That's the nature of the beast. And after several years, I finally realized there is no way possible that you will know everything about residential construction. You could go back to school tomorrow, enroll at Georgia Tech, stay there 4 years studying everything there is to know about concrete. You could graduate, go to graduate school, get a PhD knowing everything about concrete, and you will still not know everything there is about concrete. So it finally dawned on me after a number of years of building that, there's not enough time in a lifetime to learn all there is about this industry. Matter of fact, I feel like I will probably spend half of eternity learning the rest of the information about construction and or residential home building. But let me kind of sum it up this way. If everything that could be known about residential construction, you could put that information in, let's say, the Superdome in New Orleans. Most of you can be familiar with that. If everything about residential construction could be put, and it would be full to the brim, this information in the Superdome in New Orleans, you could take everything I know about construction over the past 30 plus years, and you could put it in a little matchbox. And everything else is what I still do not know about construction. So people, make your major decisions. Get that home built. Pull your easy chair over there. Enjoy that home. And don't sit around trying to figure out all there is about this business. If you want to know all there is about plumbing before you trust a plumber, go for it. I got better things I want to do with my time, and I therefore depend on the plumbing inspector, for example, to keep this basically honest. But I repeat, you will never know all there is about this industry. If you ever get around someone that implies they know all there is about residential construction, if I were you, I would run from them, because there is no way you will ever know all there is about this industry. A couple of more items I want to stress to you. It's imperative that you use the checklist at 24/7, which you can download and copy and use and reuse, because there is no way you can remember all this stuff, and there's going to be more information on the checklist than I'm able to record on these CDs. And everything at 24/7 is a living organism. As you build and you see things that could be changed a little bit or added to a checklist or whatever, let us know and we'll revise it for especially the future student. Or if you build again, then you'll have a more updated version of what we're trying geared to be used on the internet, to be used with a computer, because access to 24/7 is an incredible part of our program. There, you'll not only get the checklist, but you'll see tons of photos and graphics. We'll be incorporating videos in the near future, or they may be there by the time you hear this recording. And it's going to be constantly growing and constantly changing. So because the website is such a vital part of our program, if you're not already using fast access, then I encourage you, just for the time period that you're going to be building your home, that you pay the additional money to have fast access and not dial-up service on your computer. Because so much of this stuff, I mean, you could get a PhD in construction on the internet, especially if you had the time to just research everything. That's one of the beauties of 24/7. We've done a lot of that research for you. But a lot of the things that you need to have at your fingertips, or you need to be able to view or pull up or download, if you're on dial-up, you're going to be old and grayer than I am before you're able to see some of this stuff. So if you don't want to spend the money for fast access, I understand. But just during this process, spend the additional money, and believe me, you will be glad you did. And my feeling is once you do it, you're going to have a hard time going back to dial-up. As I mentioned earlier, there's going to be people that I recommend you hire during this process to not only make your job easier, to make sure you stay out of trouble, but just to give you that professional builder look on your home so it doesn't look like a rookie trainee did it. And some of you, you're going to want to go out there and learn how to do this yourself and do it yourself. And that's okay if you want to go that route. But a lot of these things, even though I know how to do it, I now hire the pros to come in to assist me. And if you're just watching every little nickel, God bless you, you are going to run into that trap that, a penny wise and pound foolish, or, some of those little sayings they have. But the big one I always remember is pigs get fat and hogs get butchered. If you try to save too much, you're going to pay dearly because you tried to save that extra nickel. Now, I want to encourage you to shop prices and get good deals, but there's a time and place for everything. And for those of you especially that have no knowledge of some of this stuff, hiring these individuals to come in, assist you, is just a small amount of money to pay. And bear in mind, you're saving thousands and thousands of dollars by not hiring a builder. So just give up a little of that money, make your life a lot easier, make the home a much better quality than it would be if you tried to do it without these professionals. The way the construction is going to be set up is we're going to have site preparation, we're going to have foundation, we're going to have framing. After we get the home framed, the home now takes on two identities. You've got the exterior of the home and you've got the interior of the home. So we'll do the exterior first, and then when we complete that, we'll come back and do the interior. And the interior is going to consist of the rough ends and then the final. And that's the way the construction portion is laid out. And we'll start off with the site preparation. On the site preparation, if you are going to be involved in demolishing or getting rid of an existing structure before you start construction, we've already talked about that some. I told you of the idea of dedicating the home over to the fire department to let them burn it down in order for you to get a tax write-off. I have found from experience that moving homes may not turn out to be as cheap as you may think, and unless you've got a lot that you can move it to, and that might could work out. You'll just have to look into it, see what the cost involved. And for most builders, they'll just demolish the structure that's there. I'll be repeating a few things we've already covered, but just so you know them again, never hurts to hear it again. In many areas, to do a demolition, they may require you to get a demolition permit. At the building department where you get this demolition permit, they can tell you everything they're going to require on a demolition permit. And just to point out a few things and refresh your memory on a few things, before you demolish a structure, if it was an existing home, you got to coordinate with the utility companies, gas, power company primarily, to go out and disconnect these utilities so that when you tear the home down, there's no hazard there. In some areas, they're going to require that you go and install erosion control around the area where you're going to be doing the demolition. And there's several things I want to say about the erosion control, but I'm going to hold up and mention that when we're actually building the home. But when we're getting ready to start the home, and I want you to apply the information I'm going to tell you there for this area of demolition. If the existing structure you're tearing down had a septic tank, many areas will require you to go in for environmental reasons and you pump out the existing tank before you demolish it and pull up that tank and then haul it off. They do not want you to bust that tank and let that sewage, raw sewage, just flow into the surrounding earth. So they may require you to pump it out before they allow you to do the major demolition. Also, with a lot of older homes, you may run into the issue of asbestos, and they may require you to file a report showing there is or is not asbestos on the property. If there is asbestos, then you have to get a qualified company to go out and remove it. If you get involved in this, do a lot of shopping around, because I've seen some of these companies want to charge quite a bit of money for the report. That shouldn't be the case. And I've also seen if you do have asbestos, there are companies out there that remove it a lot cheaper than other companies. So do some shopping around on this if you get involved in any asbestos. Also, when you tear down a home, or even if you burn down a home, there's a problem with rodents and stuff scattering to your neighbor's property. So if you're in a city or county that's regulating this, they may require you to go out and do an extermination on the property before you tear it down, and you will show that you'll turn in the report that you did have this exterminator out there to treat the property against any rodents and stuff like this. That's required by the city or county. And again, if you're in the city limits of a city, you deal with the city government. If you're outside the city limits of a city, you deal with the county government. I do want to mention something about what I just said. I have seen situations where I've had students building in the county, and all of a sudden they're doing something that is actually regulated by a neighboring city. And they were caught by surprise to realize that there were certain parts of the construction they had to coordinate with the adjoining city. Verify none of that's going on, or if it is, that you're at least aware of it and you're not caught by surprise. Generally, that's not the case. Then you'll get a tractor in there, and one of the best tractors to use, and you'll see photos, so many photos at 24/7 that will clarify what I'm talking about. One of the best tractors to use for demolition is what we call an excavator. And they will haul all the debris off so you can get ready to begin the construction of your home. And by the way, on the demolition, one last thing I do want to mention, is your grader, which may be doing all the work for your home, can normally do the demolition, and they can give you a rough idea up front what they think it's going to cost to demolish and haul off this home. So go ahead and get a figure up front. And if you're still in the beginning stages, you may get 2 or 3 estimates from 2 or 3 graders on what they think it's going to cost to demolish and haul off the home. Some of them would venture to even give you a firm contract for that price, so you don't run into a situation where they say, well, it's going to cost about $4,000. After you finish the demolition, if you're involved in demolition, or if you're just beginning construction on a home on a vacant lot or piece of land, the first thing you want to do is post the building permit. In most areas, you cannot begin construction until you post the building permit. And you will post the building permit up near the street. You can buy these notice boxes that you can put the building permit in to just keep it out of the elements during construction, which are very nice. You'll see pictures of them at 24/7. And the building permit gives you permission to begin construction, and it shows the world that you do have permission to do this. And in some areas, the building permit is where there are lines on the building permit where the inspectors will sign off for the rough-in and or final inspections. But in most cases, in this notice box is where they will put stickers or cards or little tags showing that you have passed or failed an inspection. By taking a look at the building permit, in a lot of cases, it gives you an idea of when the city or county would like to come out and inspect the property. You could have gotten this list from the building department, and if you ever forget it, if you look at the building permit, a lot of times it lists the items or it indicates those items where they want to come out and do an inspection. After you post a building permit, you can now lay out the site so the tractor operator, we call the grader, can get in and begin grading the property and preparing the site. I hope when you did your site plan, or you could take a copy of your site plan, just sit down at home at your desk and look at your copy of the site plan and just kind of think about things that will transpire during construction. Think about where you may want to pile any dirt that they're going to dig out for your basement so it's not going to be in the way. Think about where you may want to place the portable toilet so it's not going to be in the way and they can easily access it and pump it out on a regular basis. So just kind of think about where, everybody's going to park and where material is going to be stored. Now, if you're brand new to the industry, these are things that you can talk about with the grader when they begin construction, just so you kind of have things laid out on the site where the job will flow nice and smooth. From your site plan, on the site plan, if you have the kind of site plan I'm talking about, it's going to show what we call the disturbance area. It's going to indicate to the city or county that area of your property where you are going to be taking down trees and disturbing the land. And outside of that disturbance area is where you're not going to be taking down trees, where you're not going to be disturbing the land. And on the site plan, they will require you to show the location and type of silt fencing, for example, that you're going to be putting around the property. Your engineer or your surveyor or landscape architect that does the site plan, they may initially have put in the cheaper silt fence around the property, and the city or county will come back and mark it up. And in certain areas, they may want the more expensive silt fence that has the wire backing on it. But however this final drawing shakes out, that's how you need to install it. If you give this drawing to your erosion control subcontractor, they'll tell you, oh yeah, we can take that drawing and we'll go out and we'll lay out the silt fencing per the drawing, no problem. And on the silt fencing, you normally pay by the linear foot of silt fencing they install. In so many cases, now if it's a little small 1/4 of an acre lot, yeah, no problem. Everybody knows where the corners are and such as is. If it's a little 1/4 of an acre lot, this is no problem. However, if it's a large lot, an acre or more, and especially if it's heavily wooded, I'm telling you, these erosion control people go out there, and a lot of times they do not get the erosion control where it really exactly should be. And a lot of times you may need only, let's say, 100 feet of erosion control, and they wind up and put in 200 feet. And that costs you, a good chunk of money. So what I would prefer you do is you have your surveyor go out there with a copy of your site plan, and they will mark where the erosion control is supposed to be going, so that when the erosion control sub gets out there, there's no question. He'll know exactly where to run that silt fencing and won't be guessing it, won't be missing the mark, and won't be wasting your money. Yeah, you'll pay a little money to the surveyor to do this, but I found when they mess up on how much silt fencing they put down, it costs more than I would have paid the surveyor. I also want you to think about this back in the demolition. If you're demolishing a home and you're having to put up erosion control, hire the surveyor to mark the location. Marks this area, you will have a subcontractor out there to do the erosion control and what we call tree protection. And in the erosion control, it normally consists of silt fencing. And in the tree protection, you can see it 24/7. You could go to the extensive route of building a wooden fence around a tree that needs to be protected. But in most cases, what they'll do is they'll take that orange vinyl fencing and they will stake it around the tree that need to be saved and should not be disturbed. And your site plan is going to show which of those trees need to be marked, and the erosion control sub can set this tree safe fence in those areas for you. You'll see pictures of it at 24/7. And on your trees, if you have a really beautiful oak tree that you just love and you want to save and protect, look at some of the things at 24/7 about how to work around that tree. You want to put your tree safe fence out to the outer, what we call the drip edge of the limbs. Because once you come inside the drip edge, that's where a lot of the roots are for that tree. And if you grade and cut through that area or fill dirt in that area, more times than not, that tree is going to die. So if you're concerned about saving that tree, do not come inside that drip edge area and let them disturb that ground, either by cutting dirt out, putting a pipe through there, or piling dirt on top of those roots. Now, if you do need to take a pipe through that area, look at 24/7 and see some of the suggestions for doing this without totally destroying that tree. About the same time that they're doing all this, you should have a company to deliver a portable toilet on the job site. In some areas, this is mandatory, but even if it's not mandatory, put a portable toilet on the job site. Because as time goes on, if they don't have access to any type of privacy, they will use your basements, your tubs, your heating and air duct as a toilet, and that is a real problem. So you get a portable toilet on the job site and talk with the portable toilet company to get a feel for how often it should be, cleaned and serviced. if you just got a few people on the job, once a week is probably going to be fine. But as you really start going with maybe the foundation and especially the framing, where there's more people on the job working, then it may be required to service that thing at least twice a week, and depending on the size of your job, maybe even 3 times a week. But you want that serviced on a regular basis, or that just is another problem. But they can go ahead and deliver this portable toilet at this time. And also put the portable toilet where, as time goes on, this truck can easily access it and pump it and clean it out and service it during the construction of the home. The next subcontractor on the job is the tractor operator that we refer to as the grader. At 24/7, you'll see some of the pictures of the tractors they'll be using. A real popular tractor is what we call a track loader or a front-end grader. Another tractor that's becoming more and more popular with the graders is what we call an excavator. And on the excavator, you have the large excavators, which is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the little small mini excavators that you could use from time to time. And especially if you're working on a steep lot, the excavator has turned out to be the tractor of choice. It does a great job on a steep lot, a lot easier than fooling with a front-end loader. And if you're digging for a basement, especially if you're in a real tight area, the excavator is excellent. And most of these tractors work on a 4-hour minimum. And many of the operators want to charge you what we call 1 hour of travel time or drag time. That's pulling their tractor to and from the job. Now, don't assume that 1 hour drag time or travel time is part of the 4-hour minimum. Now, I'm going to cover some basics here, and then I'm going to come back and kind of sum it all up to make the job a lot easier for you. The grader's going to get in there, and they're going to remove trees. And on the trees, if you have a large number of pine trees, for example, students have called me and they said, Tom, I've got a large number of pine trees on the property. Can I sell those pine trees? Well, unless you have a very large number of pine trees, you're not going to realize any money from the sale of them. About the best thing you can hope for is that somebody will come in and haul them off for free. And that'll save you from having to pay for them to go to a dump or something like this. And that will save you money. But even if you got somebody that will come in there and haul them off for free, do not go in there and cut those pine trees down at this point. If you cut those pine trees down and get rid of them when that tractor shows up, they've got to dig and dig and dig to get that stump out of the ground. And that's going to cost quite a bit of money. What you do, you leave the tree standing. And this is true whether it be pine tree, oak tree, whatever. You leave the tree standing and the tractor will push the tree over and the weight of the tree will pull the stumps out of the ground. And then you have a saw man there to cut off the stumps, cut off the limb and brush. Then you can haul off the logs and get rid of them.